Welcome to another episode of the CheckDown. I'm here with the crew, man. J Mick, how you feeling, bro?
Nigga, I'm feeling good, man. I mean, like my city had a parade yesterday, man. So I'm A1 right now.
Oh man. Oh man,
A1, baby, A1.
Luckily, I'm on cheer for the Lakers
And the number 18
right now,
bro.
so I ain't upset. You know what I mean? Right now, I ain't. You know what I'm saying? As long as that man on my team, I won't be cheering for nothing. So, congratulations, good brother.
I appreciate it, man.
How you feeling, Dre?
I'm feeling good, man. I've been following a little bit of this college football recruiting. Things are looking good right now. I'm excited. Got 9 more Saturdays till college football starts. We're going to get a lot of good college football before the NFL kickoff. So I'm excited, man. Next month, we got the game coming out. I can't wait.
Yeah, man. Dre been talking a lot of cash about that game too, man. He just claiming he just finna be spanking people.
Oh yeah, whoever wants smoke, man.
That man,
Whoever wants that smoke, you can get it.
I think we're gonna have to do it. We're gonna have to get everybody we can, all the watchers and viewers, man, do a check down tournament or something.
Nah, I'm gonna win that. I don't nobody even got a chance. It's Bama over everybody.
Hey, Mitt, you gonna let them talk like that about you?
I mean, how many times did they beat us?
I mean, I don't care how many times
I beat football,
okay.
It's a video game, man.
That's what I care about. So I mean, beating Alabama, that don't really get me no natty or nothing. Unless we play in the national championship game. So I don't.
That ain't never happened, has it? That ain't never happened, right, Mitt?
Nah, we played in the national championship. Both my receivers was hurt in that game. Both my receivers was hurt. J-Mo was out.
That ain't really my problem, though.
And we busted their ass when we was healthy, though, Smitty. We busted that ass.
You saying last year that my was hurt and all this.
Y'all won. But I'm just saying, ain't nobody step up on the Bama side once our 2-star receivers went down. It is what it is.
Yeah, man. Well, let's get into this college breakdown, man. So first thing first, man, we're gonna give a preview of the college football playoff breakdown, right?
Yeah, just kind of go over the format and go through kind of a little bit of the schedule. We don't have to necessarily say when each game is, but just how it's set up, because there is a little bit of difference between the first round, second round. So, yeah, I mean, the college football playoff, you got the 12-team playoff this year, first time ever. You got 5 automatic bids. You're going to have your 4 power conference winners. It used to be 5, but Pac-12 doesn't exist anymore. So you got the ACC champ, you got the SEC champ, you got the Big 12 champ and the Big 10 champ. And the best group of 5 teams. So all of the teams that aren't in the power conference, that's the group of 5. That's like the Tulanes, the Boise States, the Liberties of the world, James Madison, those type of teams. So one of those teams.
I know Cole Brennan in Hawaii mad right now, boy, that they got this. Y'all remember that, J-Mick?
James Madison of Liberty this upcoming season, because I think they, I think especially Liberty, they have expectations of being really good. So
they do.
You remember that J-Mick Cole Brennan in Hawaii? You remember they went undefeated?
Yeah, I think didn't he pass away or something?
Yeah, rest in peace, Cole Brennan.
Yeah. But I mean,
you remember they went crazy for 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, if they had that 12-team college playoff, I mean, back in those, Cole Brennan, when he played for Hawaii days, then they might have made it one of them years possibly. Who knows?
I mean, a few teams that probably would have made it.
We've had teams play in major bowl games that were from that G5 kind of cloth, but it doesn't happen often. I mean, you had Cincinnati in the playoffs. They were a group of 5 team when they were in the playoffs. Right, but they just had a really good team. I mean, they had Jerome Ford in the backfield. They had Kobe Bryant and Sauce on that team. That was just a really good team. So It's happened, but it hasn't happened regularly. Now we're gonna have one in every year. And what you were saying, Jay, Mick, Liberty, yeah, Liberty. They have expectations. Tulane, I think with Tulane is going to be interesting because they actually they have new head coach over there and stuff like that. But they've been making noise the last couple of years. James Madison, I think, is really interesting because they weren't eligible to play in a bowl game last year because it was their first year actually being Division 1, and they had a really good season. So this year they could be in the
There's rules
running,
against
and
that.
then yeah, well, the first year you come up to Division 1, you can't compete for in a bowl game, but up starting year 2 you can. So they're eligible this year. That's another team that
What's
could
the
be
what's
in the
the what's
running.
the purpose of that rule? Why do they have that rule in place that you can't compete?
It's
You
the
if you come in and
NCAA.
go, I mean, you come in and win all your games, and you qualify for the college football playoff. I can't compete.
It's the NCAA, man. The NCAA, they
Yeah, I mean,
just
the
some of the
rule
rules are weird.
too. I mean, I don't know why the rules in place, but it's just it's like it's one of those things where like I mean, you have a rule that's been in place for a while and nobody want to change the rule.
Yeah, but I mean they'll be in the running, and Boise State is another one. I think ESPN put something out last week or the week before where they actually said that Boise State probably has the best chance out of all of the group of 5 teams to make the college football playoff.
Do they still got the same coach up there?
At Boise State, I think they still have the coach, and they brought in a quarterback. I can't remember his name off the top of my head right now, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like a lot of intrigue with this, like I mean, 12-team playoff, and I just think like when it first got passed, a lot of people thought that it was going to make the regular season less important, but I think how they've structured it in a certain kind of way is like, I mean, the regular season games are still important because you still want to finish as I mean, as high as possible. So,
But do you really?
I mean, like if you finish at the top 4 seeds, then you don't have to play the first week, and you get a bye.
Oh,
Yeah, but if you're the 5 seed, right? Let's say you're the 5 seed, and just to throw a scenario together, let's say Alabama's in the 5 seed, Georgia's the 1, 2, 3, or 4, whatever. Week 1, Alabama's probably going to play that group of 5 team because they're more than likely always going to be the 12 seed because they're usually not going to be ranked higher than any of the other teams. Right. So week 1, you kind of have a layup. Then week 2, you're facing potentially the weakest conference champ out of anybody. Let's say Utah or somebody like that. You kind of have a clear path to get to the semis if you're in the 5 seed
Yeah, but
because
you
you
also as football too, though. So like with football, this is not like basketball or baseball where you got to play a series. It's a 1 game thing. So I mean, like the only issue with what I have you saying is that anything can happen in a 1 game situation. Like, yeah, you're the better team, but like in situations where you're playing playoffs, whether you're playing college football or the NFL, like the better team don't always win in these like 1 game scenarios. So I mean, Bama
yeah.
should be like the non like Power 4 school. They should. I mean, but the next week, I mean, you still got to play like a Power 4 team. I mean, like it could be like, let's just say it's like Oklahoma State and like the Big 12. I
For
mean, like
sure.
they're still a pretty good team. It's not like I mean, and you're not playing like chopped liver or nothing. So I mean, you still got to show up for the game. So
For sure, but it's like a scenario where as the 5th seed, you could be the second or third best team in the country, and the Big 12 champion could be the 20th best team in the country. Like you still have a clear advantage going into that game. Now, if you have a bye, obviously you don't risk any injury and stuff like that. But I could also argue for the university, they would rather not have a bye because week 1 of the playoffs are home field games. So if you're the higher seed, you have the home field advantage in the first week of the playoffs, which also brings more revenue.
so
Right, you're
I
selling more tickets, you're selling more concessions, and it brings more revenue to your school. So there's advantages and disadvantages to being the 5th seed instead of being one of the top 4 seeds.
And if my goal is to win the Natty, and like I'd rather have the bye, because like if you do win the Natty and you're gonna sell so much merch for winning the Natty that it should be you should be able to find ways to like not like to not be hurt by like not actually like having that like home game. That's all I'm gonna say. Like if you win the Natty, I don't think you're that worried about like like the gates and the concessions, because you'll make it up in merch.
No, for sure. So first round, like I said, first round you have a home game. Second round is when it starts to get into the bowl games. So I had a list pulled up here. It is right here. Like I said, first round home. Then when you get to the quarterfinal, one of the games will be the Fiesta Bowl. One of them will be the Peach Bowl. One of them will be the Rose Bowl, and one of them will be the All-State Sugar Bowl. What's interesting?
Wasn't it the Rose Bowl that wouldn't move, right? That's the one that said they had to have theirs on a certain day, right?
You got to play theirs on January 1st because they got
they play theirs always on the same day. But when it comes to those 4, the interesting thing about that is, so we already established like the top 4 seeds, they have a bye. Well, they get to decide what bowl they play in. Like the let's say Georgia's ranked number 1 overall, they get to pick which bowl game they go to. And number 2 team picks which one they go to, and then 3 goes wherever they go.
The Peach Bowl, and they ain't got to go that far.
Yeah, exactly. I would assume they would take the Peach. I mean,
so that
I would assume teams are going to take the closest one to them.
They should. They definitely should. I mean, there's scenarios where I could see the Big Ten school wanting to play in a Rose Bowl, even if it's in California. It's just the Rose Bowl. They have a deep connection over to the Rose Bowl. In the Big Ten. But that to me is interesting because you get to decide where you play, and like you guys just said, you have an advantage, like especially if there's one of those games in your state, right? That you get the advantage of being able to say, if you're Georgia, hey, we want to play in Atlanta. Now I don't know if you want to play in Atlanta if you're Georgia and you got to play against Bama, because Bama doesn't lose to Georgia in Atlanta, so I don't know about that one, but
but that wouldn't happen anyways, because the likelihood that we'd be playing you in the like the second week of the playoffs is not really that high.
Yeah, it's not high, but I'm just as long as it's not Bama, you can play in Georgia. You can play in the Falcon Stadium.
And then y'all would have to be like the 10th, 11th seed or some shit like that.
I don't see that happening. But
y'all the 10th or 11th seed, what happened?
Well, I mean, if we're the 10th or 11th seed, we probably lost 3 games this year, which I don't see happening. But that would be the scenario. We'd have lost 3 games, probably lost to Georgia, LSU, and maybe Tennessee or Auburn or just some other team on the schedule. But I don't see that happening.
I see the 2 at most. That bad coming in. I ain't gonna lie.
No, and then after the second round, you have the semis, and the semis it's one of them is going to be the Orange Bowl in Miami, and the other one's going to be the Cotton Bowl in AT&T Stadium.
Jerry World.
You're going to get Jerry World and Hard Rock. Those are your 2 semifinal.
Two
stadiums.
Very wonderful stadiums. 2 very wonderful stadiums.
And then the national championship will be played in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, Atlanta once again.
Why does Atlanta get 2?
It's probably because
the national championship rotates every year. So this year it's in Atlanta. Next year, I forgot.
No, I'm just saying they're getting 2 games like within what, a month of each other.
That's not the first time that happened.
Atlanta though, that's the other. The Peach Bowl's always there though.
Yeah, like that's not the first time that's happened. That happens sometimes, but if I'm not mistaken, next year, is it next year where it's in Louisiana? I have to go look again. But it rotates. The national championship doesn't stay. Or does it have it here? No, it has it here. No, it'll be in Miami next year. It'll be in Hard Rock. They haven't announced 26 yet, but yeah. So next year it'll be Miami. This year it's in Georgia.
And you're gonna get cities that's gonna have multiple bowl. Like because I mean, like it's just gonna work that way because I mean, New Orleans has what the it's not the Sugar Bowl that's there. What bowl is in New Orleans? That was
New Orleans has the
not the
which one is it?
I mean, the Fiesta's out west.
It has the sugar. Yeah, it's the Sugar Bowl.
Sugar Bowl, because the Sugar Bowl's there every year. The Fiesta Bowl, I believe, is in Arizona every year, right?
Yeah.
Fiesta, I could tell you where all of them are. Yeah, Fiesta is Arizona. Peach Bowl, Georgia.
Rose is at the
Rose
Coliseum.
Bowl is Pasadena. You got the Sugar Bowl in New Orleans, and then you have the Orange Bowl is in Miami, and Cotton Bowl is in AT&T Stadium.
Yes, I mean you're gonna have situations where there's gonna be a situation almost every year with the national championship game like that. That site is they're gonna have 2 bowl games. That's what it sounds like. So,
yeah, I'm excited to see the national championship in Jerry World though. I think that's gonna be dope.
That stadium fire. That's good.
yeah, and that was there last year. So
That stadium fire. Oh yeah, you did go to the Patriots.
yeah, I was there for that massacre. Yeah, shit was a massacre too.
One thing I will say though about the playoff format, this year it's 12. There's a good possibility that next year it goes up to 14. That's not 100% a done deal yet, but if it goes up to 14, I think that's going to bring it's going to bring more relevance back to the regular season and within the conferences. Because this year you can afford to lose and still make the playoffs. I think next year the SEC, Big Ten are each going to have 3 guaranteed spots in the playoffs. ACC and Big 12 will have a guaranteed 2 spots in the playoffs. So at that point, like if you win your conference, you're automatically still going to be one of the top seeds, right? But if you finish second, then you automatically qualify. You finish third, you automatically qualify. And then all of those other teams, they got to fight for their spot. And there's not going to be a lot of spots left. Because we just do the quick math, you got 3, 6, 10, 11 with the group of 5. So that means there's only 3 at large. So I think that brings a little more urgency back into the regular season at that point.
And I just think, like, as long as I've been watching college football, every time they make a change to how they crown the national championship, like that's their number one go-to. Well, it's gonna make the regular season less important. And to this point, it still hasn't done that yet. So until it does it, I'm just not gonna believe that. So because
I'm looking at it from the standpoint of like if we just take this past season, for example, Georgia, Bama, SEC title. Georgia loses, they don't make the playoffs because they lost that game. It won't be like that this year. Now, you can say in years past, there's been scenarios where it wasn't like that either. But there was always a reason why 2 teams from the SEC made it in. It was because somebody else didn't do their job to keep one of those teams out.
Yeah, but
and this year, it just doesn't matter. Like, if you lose the SEC title game, you're still a playoff team. Now, you don't have the bye, but you still have a chance to go win the national championship.
Yeah, but that's what I always say. Like, they always say, like, changing the system is going to make the regular season less important. And I don't feel that way because I mean, now you're bringing seeding into it. Now it's not just about making it, but it's about who you're going to play. So I mean, like schools are gonna play these games in the season differently because there might be certain matchups that they're not trying to see, or there might be teams that they are trying to see, and that's how they'll like it could kind of be like the NFL where like you come down to the last 2 weeks of the season and you play your games a certain kind of way because you want to face a certain.
But the only problem, Jimmy, is for the schools that have the conference championship type deal, you can't really adjust to play those teams because you got 2 teams going in for a fight and the winner comes out and you play them. But some teams are already done. Like SEC will be done. They won't have an opportunity to move around in seeding.
Yeah, it's going to be hard. Like it'll be hard, like you said, Smitty, to really line up who you're going to play against because you just don't know the outcome of the other games. Like if all of them were playing on the same weekend, the only team that's not playing that could be relevant is Notre Dame.
Yeah,
Like
but
Notre
all
Dame's going to be the only one.
yeah, but all the championship games are played on that Saturday though. They like the majority of them are played on that Saturday, and then the Sunday they come out with the final rankings where they show you, I mean how each team is ranked.
For
So
sure, but
That's how it's gonna be hard to gauge. Because, like,
that's what
say
I'm
for
saying.
instance, like two
Go
teams
ahead.
go in and let's say for instance it's the 2 and 3 seed, and you like, all right, these teams finna battle it out, right? Georgia is gauging that they're gonna be, let's say the 1, the 4, the 1, whatever you want to say, right? You can't really gauge what team is coming out because now you got two teams going in for the battle that are both in the top, and one of those teams are going to be in the bottom of the ranking when they come out,
yeah,
because
but
the
you're
other
also
team is getting an
assuming that
automatic bid.
yeah, but the other issue is you're assuming that in these other conferences that the second team and that's making the championship game is actually a really good team. I mean, there have been years where the Big Ten has be, I mean, it'd be like Ohio State versus like Iowa State or some shit, or like Iowa, and they weren't really that good. They weren't
But now
high
with the
enough ranked.
additives, doesn't it make it a little bit more likely that you get better games in those conference games with these new
I
teams
mean,
coming
I'm
in?
that's what you're hoping for, but that doesn't. I mean, that's just not. I mean, like so, like the Big Ten, like I'm not. I think they did away with the divisions. I think. I'm not.
there's nobody has divisions anymore. All divisions are gone.
Yeah. So
So
I
it's a
mean, so
top
in
two
that
team,
case,
so you won't get that no more then.
yeah,
It's
yeah. But
only the top
So like the
seven.
years where it should have been like, who ain't Ohio State and somebody on the same side? Michigan, right? They on the same side, right?
Ohio State,
Yeah,
Michigan, Penn
in
State, all
Michigan.
on the same side.
yeah,
Mm.
but
So it's been years where like Ohio State was
I,
like a one-loss team and Michigan was like a
Iowa,
one-loss team, but they ended up
yeah,
playing like a fucking
I
sorry
mean,
ass
but
team that was like
Iowa,
3 losses.
Iowa
Yeah,
the other
for a
thing is
long time.
so.
Yeah.
Big Ten, for example, like it did, like I get they don't have division anymore, but that don't mean that you might like this year you might have an undefeated Ohio State team coming into play. Maybe they're playing at like a Michigan team that got 2 losses, or Iowa team that got 2 losses, or who knows, an Oregon team with 2 losses, or USC. Whoever got like those situations can still happen where the team you're playing still can have 2 losses and like they're on the fringe, like they're I mean like they're not like a top 6 team or whatever. Like so,
Yeah,
I
but
still
all
think
those teams can't have two losses.
but they
I
win
think
the
the
end though.
likelihood.
They win the
I
end.
think. I think the likelihood of at least in the Big Ten and the SEC, I don't think you're going to see a lot of two-loss teams in the title games. Now, if you're talking about the Big 12 and the ACC, even the ACC, I'm not sure. Big 12, I think the Big 12 is kind of like if I had to draw a comparison to the NFL, kind of like the AFC North, where they're going to beat up on each other. Like it's hard to really say who's going to come out of that because they're all going to beat up on each other. So that could be a conference where you see multiple teams with multiple losses that can get into the playoffs. But I'll give you a scenario like the year TCU went and played Georgia in the national championship. They lost to Kansas State in the title game, in the
Oh,
Big
they
12
did.
title game. So that year, you would have
See,
had to
but like
put
I was just
both
finna
of them
ask you
in.
that.
They would have been TCU and Kansas State in there.
I was just finna ask about that. What happens to like, let's say Georgia, Alabama? We gonna use y'all. One of y'all undefeated. One of y'all a one-loss team. The undefeated team lose. Now the I know that the team that wins is
They'll be the
automatically
five
in.
seed. The other
They'll be
team
the
will be the
five.
five seed. If you're undefeated going into the SEC championship and you lose, you're gonna be the five seed.
I just
I
think it
don't
depends on the
I
rest of
don't
the
see any way around it.
I mean, I'm not just gonna say you're gonna end up in the 5 seed. I mean, I just can't. I mean, because that shit didn't happen last year. Georgia was undefeated going to game, they lost, and they weren't the 5 seed. They were like the 6 seed. So that shit didn't even happen last year.
You know why that was though? Because they had to clean some things up in that last poll because there was a lot of inconsistencies. If you go look at the college football playoff rankings throughout the whole span of it last season, there were inconsistencies. They were because they would tell you, okay, they're going off of your best wins. They're going off of your strength of schedule and stuff like that. But then if you go look at Oregon, Alabama, and Texas, Alabama and Texas both had better wins than Oregon, a better strength of schedule than Oregon, and were both ranked behind Oregon. Like there was just a lot of inconsistencies with that last year. But I believe if there was a 12-team playoff last year, I believe y'all would have been the five seed. I I know it didn't end that way, but I think if there was a 12-team playoff, I don't think there's any way that you can say that any of these other teams would have been above Georgia.
Yeah, but I
And
mean, you
wouldn't that prevent a team like Florida State, who won their conference
They would
and
have been
had
an
an
automatic.
undefeated se- wouldn't it prevent a team like that from being left out of the playoffs just
Yes,
because
that
they lost their quarterback?
yeah, they
yeah,
would be an automatic bid because they won the conference.
yeah, but I think at the end of the day, like Georgia wasn't gonna be, we weren't gonna be five last year. I don't like, I just don't like. Let's say it was a 12 team, and Florida State won. They would have probably just kept Florida State at the four. They would have had Alabama at the five and Georgia at the six. Like that's probably what would have happened. Like, and so like that's what I'm saying. Like Georgia had no losses and they lost, and they pushed them down to six because you had an undefeated Florida State team, you had a one-loss Bama team, and I think in the future, if that happens in similar situations where and you got a bunch of undefeated teams and a bunch of one-loss teams, like I'm just not going to make the assumption that the runner-up in the SEC championship game is automatically going to be fifth. Like I just can't.
I,
I just really can't go with that.
I mean, but
my only issue, right, is like, so you go into the championship game a top four team, and you lose to a team that got maybe more than one loss. Let's say they just got more than one loss, and you lose to them. Now you give somebody else a top four seed, but you in. That's the part I just don't understand a little bit.
Well, I
I
mean,
mean, but you can lose on any given Saturday.
No, I ain't
Like,
saying you can or can't lose. I'm just saying, okay, number one team lose to a two-loss team in a championship game, and now they're the fifth seed, but they've been number one. You know what I mean? Like that's a just like in my head, I just don't know how you fall in the ranking. That's where I'm at.
it's
Like,
got to
how
be
are
the
they gonna? How do they weigh it? How do they judge it?
so it's
Because
got to
I
be the
mean,
perfect situation too. Like last year, there were four undefeated teams going. There were more than that going into that weekend. There were five. There was five going into that weekend. And it's just like if all the undefeated teams win and the last undefeated team doesn't win, then you're just gonna fall. I mean, like they're gonna put you beneath those teams that didn't lose. That's just what they're gonna do in most scenarios. I mean, the Florida State is a case study and something different because the reason why they got dropped out was because the starting quarterback got hurt weeks before. So
I think the worst thing that happened to Florida State was Ohio State. Remember when Ohio State made the playoffs with the third string quarterback?
and what was that like? What was that 5 6 years ago?
Yeah, that was a while ago. But
The JT Barrett year, wasn't it?
uh, was it JT Barrett? I have to go look. But Cardell Jones was third string that year.
Yeah, I think that was I think JT Barrett started the year or something. He got hurt. I mean, it was something like that.
Yeah,
which
but the
one?
fact
The
he
year the
came in and
championship
he lit it up.
year.
Hold on, let me. I can
Carnell
look it
was
up. But
last. I know Carnell was last. JT Barrett was, I want to
Yeah,
say, second.
I think that was 20. Is it 15 or 2016? It was one of them years.
I know Carnell was
uh,
last. He the one that won the championship.
Excuse me.
Braxton Miller was first, wasn't he?
let me. I'm about to
If
look.
I'm not mistaken, I thought it was Braxton Miller was first, and then he got hurt and came back a receiver the next year.
It was in 15, but I don't know who the starter was in 15. I'm forgetting right now, but I think that was the worst thing that happened to Florida State because they were down to their third string quarterback, and he came in and still that offense still looked good. Florida State's offense looked anemic with the third string quarterback. It looked terrible.
And you know
And
what's bad, Dre? He was there for 4 years.
J-Mick, I just looked it up too. Y'all were the sixth seed, yes. But if you look at the top five seeds, all of them were the conference winners. And we're only going to have four conference champs this year. So I think that we can agree to disagree, but I think there's a good chance that the SEC loser, if it were that scenario where, like it was last year, Bama's coming into the game, one loss, beats an undefeated Georgia, I think you end up the five seed. I don't see any way around it at this point.
So now so Bama ends up the 4 seed with the bye.
Bama would be one of the top four. It would depend on how they rank you at that point, right? Because the top four seeds still depend on the ranking. It's not like one conference is just automatically one, two, three, and four.
No, I understand that. That's what I was asking
But
you. Like,
I
You know
don't.
what I'm saying?
I mean, last year, what were we 3? I think we were 3 last year. Didn't we? No, we were 4 last year. We were 4 last year, yeah, because we lost to Texas. It just, I guess, it just depends on how the season goes, where you end up. But I think I like the 12 team format. I'm just a little skeptical about how it's going to look towards the end of the season because if you got guys that are a little banged up, like for example, Ladd and Brock Bowers last year, you're not going to play those guys in that type of scenario, right? You're just going to sit them out because it doesn't matter if you lose. Like I don't know. I feel like the urgency is
So
just
that's the
gone.
problem you have with it a little bit.
Yeah,
Teams
I
can
think the urgency is just gone because you can take games off if you're forced to, or if you just feel the need to give your guys some rest. And I don't like that because that's not what college football has been. College football has been you have to win. Like you
Yep.
have to consistently win. And if you lose, yes, there's a possibility you can still be a playoff team, but the chances get slimmer if you take a loss. Now you take a loss, like if you're a one loss team in the SEC, that doesn't do anything for you as far as the playoffs go. Same thing with the Big Ten. Let's say Ohio State loses to Oregon, Oregon doesn't lose a game. Oregon is definitely in the playoffs because they won the conference. But Ohio State, that one loss does nothing to them whatsoever. Like, it just, I don't know. I feel like the urgency's gone
so
somewhat.
you think the top seeded teams will take the games off? Because I don't think the bottom seeded teams could take that same
Oh yeah,
advantage.
no, they can't do that. I guess maybe it's more so like the SEC and the
The
Big
bigger
Ten
school.
too. I think it's those two conferences because I think the ACC. I don't know if you have that same luxury. The Big 12 doesn't have that same luxury, but I think it's those
I
two
think with the ACC, it would depends on
super
where you rank that
conferences
type deal.
for
I
sure.
think
But
with
I'm
the
I'm saying
ACC,
just
taking a loss, you have to be top three to still even have a chance. You have to be.
for sure. But I'm just talking about like the way that the conferences are viewed. Like the Big Ten is viewed as one of those quote unquote super conferences, right? SEC the same thing. Those other two are respected, but I think that they're valued less than if you're playing in those in the Big Ten or in the SEC. And I think that's why it probably applies more to those two conferences. Like in the Big 12, you lose a game that could keep you out of the playoffs, just depending on how the rest of the landscape of college football goes. ACC, if you lose a game, let's say Miami loses, they're not guaranteed to make the playoffs. Alabama loses to Georgia. I don't think there's any way in hell we don't make the playoffs if we don't lose another game. It's just how the
I think
teams
it's
are
gonna be
viewed.
interesting. It's gonna be interesting how it falls when teams lose or win or the conference championship games. Because it's
For
gonna be
sure,
it's
man.
possible it's possible to have a team that's not in the top 12 win a conference championship game and be in.
Yeah, not for sure. I mean, Oklahoma State almost won the Big 12 last year. I don't think Oklahoma State was a top 12 team at that time when they were playing in that game. So it can happen. I mean, Iowa, if Iowa would have somehow beat Michigan, for example, last year, Iowa wasn't a top 12 team. Like that can definitely happen. I mean, it could happen in the ACC. Let's say Clemson and Florida State, or Clemson and Miami, or Florida State and Miami, and one of them could be ranked outside of that top 12 and win. Big 12, I think the Big 12 has the best chance, though, of having a team ranked outside of the top 12 win the conference because I think that conference is wide open. If you want like parity and just chaos when it comes to watching college football, I think the Big 12 is going to be a conference to really tune into this year because I think there's going to be a lot of that.
Okay, okay. I see where it's at though. Like it's a lot of positives and negatives to this new format. Yeah, it's gonna be better that you get the teams in, but it's gonna be teams probably shouldn't be in. That's gonna end up making it too, because it's like J Mix said before, it's a one off. All I gotta do is have one good game, and I could possibly be in the 12. I have an automatic bid. If I get a good game in the conference championship, I'm in. I could have had
Yeah,
a bad season, but one win, I'm in.
but I think what's gonna keep that from happening as much now is the fact that there are no more divisions. So it should always be the top two teams in your conference. Now, that could still mean that a team outside of the top 12 wins because I mean, if you have let's say the SEC has 5 teams in the top 12, the Big 10 has 4 teams or 5 teams in the top 12. There's not a lot of room left in that top 12 for those other conferences. And if we just look at how it ended last year, Michigan, Washington, Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State are all now teams that are in the Big Ten. So that's 5, right? If you go look at the SEC, you have Texas, Bama, Georgia, Missouri, Ole Miss, Oklahoma. All those teams were top 12 teams. Like, if you, it's going to be hard for teams to really get into that top 12. I think maybe they view it a little differently this year, but I don't know. I don't see how a lot of teams from the ACC or a lot of teams from the Big 12 are just going to end up in the top 12 just because those other conferences are stacked.
So you think it's gonna be overpopulated with the bigger conferences? Is that what you're saying?
I mean, if I'm going off of last year, yeah, Texas is probably going to be one of the best teams in the nation. I still think Alabama's going to be up there. Georgia's for sure going to be up there. Mizzou is projected to be a top 10 team. Like it's yeah, that's already 4 right there, and we haven't even talked about like well, Ole Miss. That's 5. Like I think there's a potential that those 5 teams end up preseason top 12 to 15. All of those 5 teams. So I mean, we'll see. It's going to be interesting.
Definitely gonna be interesting. That's definitely interesting. Oh man, I think now with the portal kind of being open too, you're gonna see overpopulated teams and things of that nature too. Teams that you know usually aren't making it gonna have a abundance of decent talent that they can pull in from NILs and things like that. So you're gonna see teams that probably wasn't really making big pushes, making bigger pushes now with the automatic bid.
Yeah, for sure. The NIL and transfer portal, that kind of changed the whole landscape of college football. Like as far as just how things are done now. And it's one of the reasons why Nick Saban retired. Not because he couldn't do it, because I think Kalen DeBoer coming in and recruiting the way he is right now proves that Alabama is going to be one of those brands going forward. But he was just old and didn't have the energy to do it because now you have to recruit your team, you have to recruit high school kids, and you have to recruit the portal. These college coaches have probably some of the most stressful jobs in sports as far as just how long and demanding their days are, especially when it comes to like recruiting and stuff like that. It just at some point it just becomes too much. And I think that's why eventually there's going to be a change to the transfer portal and NIL thing. But right now it's just the wild, wild west. When you got
And
kids
explain this to
being
me, right? So
tampered with,
there's two opportunities to transfer. Am I confused?
there's multiple
But they're like two big opportunities.
windows.
There's two big windows, right? There's the fall window and then there's the spring window, right?
You, I don't think that
Pre-fall or whatever. The one
there's a
window.
winter. There's winter and
Winter,
spring.
winter, winter.
It's
That's what it is. My bad.
winter, and that one's kind of weird because the winter portal opens up during the season. So, like, if you look at last year, Texas' backup quarterback entered the transfer portal before they played in the playoff game. And it's weird because you want to stay with your team and compete, but you kind of also have to do what's best for you. And the reason that the portal is set up the way it is because it's still based off of the school schedule, right? So as far as like the spring portal goes, you can't enter the portal after a certain day and then be eligible to play in the spring. So that's why they have the spring portal for after spring. So you because after spring you kind of know where you are on the depth chart and if you're really going to get the playing time you need. And some kids utilize it to go to other schools because they might be in their junior year and they're trying to get to the NFL. I mean, Florida State, I had a guy come from Georgia that came over there and made himself a lot of money. We had a guy come from Ohio State that made himself a lot of money. So you have that, but the winter portal, yeah, it opens in December and it closes right after the national championship.
And then it reopens after spring
eh,
camp.
After spring, exactly. And you do have other opportunities for kids to transfer. Like when Nick Saban retired, the portal opened up for a month, but just for Alabama players. Same
Yeah.
thing happened with Michigan when the Michigan players, up and when Harbaugh went to the league. With Arizona, it happened. But the timing is really important because if a lot of the Michigan players didn't enter the portal because they wouldn't have had anywhere to go because they wouldn't have been able to enroll in classes because they missed the registration date for that semester. Right, so you have to be enrolled in the school by a certain date, or you can't, or technically you don't have a scholarship. Like you can't participate in any practice. You can't go to classes. That's the downside of the portal. It's kind of sad for some of these kids because some of these kids enter the portal and then they end up not having anywhere to go and they're just stuck in the portal. They don't have a scholarship and they don't really know what they're going to do going forward. There's actually a kid from UConn, a corner, who played well for UConn, and I guess he thought he could go somewhere and make himself some money, and he entered the portal, and now he just stuck. He doesn't have anywhere to go. A kid from Bama left Bama, and now he's going to Last Chance U. All right, the
Oh
the
yeah, I
school that
heard
was
about
the
him.
the
I heard
original
about him.
school. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
Now he has
I
some
heard
other
about him.
issues, so I don't know. There might have been some bigger thing that led to him going to community college, but you have those stories because more kids enter the portal every year than get taken out of the portal. So that's
I
kind of
kind of
the
agree with
sad part of
Jigga
the
though.
portal.
I kind of agree with Jigga. Like I think like I understand you went to a school, but just going there 1 year, leaving, going to another one for the bag is really gonna be aggravating, bro. You wasting the team resources to recruit you all year long for them to get you there for you to leave because you got another $1 million at another school.
Not only that, you're seeing a lot of these top talent kids go to these programs and do exactly what you're saying, Smitty, and they're not developing their skill set. They're not growing their game when if they would have stayed at a program like Texas or Bama or Oklahoma, and yeah, okay, you're gonna sit behind this player, but you can work on your game. You're gonna work with top skill position coaches. You could develop your game, and when it's your time to step up, you're gonna ball out. And that's what you see a lot of times with the Bama players that only have 1 year starting, but that's because they've developed their skills, and when their number was called they ball out and then you see them become a top 10 top 15 pick in the league when it comes draft when they become draft eligible.
Yeah, you're right. You're right,
Well, I guess I'm in the
Prince.
minority because I don't really have no problem with it because to me, I mean, like for a long time, like coaches were leaving schools and I mean they was promising kids stuff and the kids didn't get what they promised. So I just think now it just makes the coaches more honest. Where if you recruit a kid out of high school and you saying that I'm gonna give you this, this, and this. If the player get there, he played there for a year, and what you promised is not what he's getting, then I don't really have a problem with him. I mean, like leaving because I mean you sold him on something that you ain't deliver on. So that's
Yeah,
at it though.
I agree with you, J-Mick, because the other side that I don't think a lot of people highlight is coaches have been doing the same shit with the players for years as far as pushing players out of the program. Like, if you go look at, especially the bigger universities, go look at the Georgias, Alabamas, the Ohio States of the world. Like, these programs that take 28 kids every year, they're only doing that because they're pushing other kids out.
Yep.
And if they're gonna be pushing kids out, like I can't get mad at kids for leaving and going other places. I just don't. I don't like the whole process. Like I know in certain situations, there's schools that are tampering with these kids and getting them to leave. I think that there should be some kind of buyout involved. Because if you want to talk to a coach and bring him to your school and he's at another school, you have to pay his buyout. Right? I think it should be the same way with the players. Because if coaches are calling and saying, "Hey, we like you, we're interested, and we want you to come here," well, you should have to pay for that kid to come there if he's already at another school. All right. But if coaches can leave and go other places, I think the players should also be able to do that. I just think that it should be seen and handled in a similar light as far as like a buyout goes.
I think the
'Cause
buyout would help.
it would help a lot of the smaller schools for sure. Because I mean, Quinion ended up staying, but you heard what Saban was saying. Saban was trying to get that man to come over to Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
Jordan Addison a couple years ago goes to USC. That hurts the smaller programs. They're getting these stars, they're developing these stars, and then they're leaving and going on to bigger and better things, and the university is just stuck. Like, what is the university supposed to do? At least in that
So is the
sense, they get
problem
some
for
money
you,
for it.
Trey, more for the kids that go and leave after a year, or the kids that stay for multiple years and the school is now prepared to use you as a big piece and you go somewhere else?
I mean, I'm never gonna be mad at kids for leaving, but for me, it's more about the coaches. Like, it's more about the coaches tampering with these kids because you're promising these kids some things that they might not have at the university that they're currently attending, but they might actually be in a better situation. And I guess some of that has to be put on the kids too, though. They have to recognize, like, look, now I'm in the best situation for me, like Quinion Mitchell did. Quinion Mitchell was in the best situation for him, so he decided to stay. Jordan Addison, I could argue, potentially could have been a little bit better if he would have stayed at Pitt because his numbers at USC weren't amazing. Like I think that's the biggest thing to me. It's just these kids. Some of them are valuing the money over the development, and some of the coaches know that and they're using it to their advantage. Like Braden Fisk, I saw an interview of his. USC threw him a crazy bag to try to get him to come to USC. Obviously, he didn't end up going to USC. He ended up going to Florida State. He had the mindset of, okay, this is my money year. If I go to USC, I'm living in a penthouse, I'm making all this money. I'm not going to be focused and grind the way that I need to get to the next level. Now, he saw it like that for him. But some of these kids, they're not worried about that. They just want to go wherever they're going to go and make the most amount of money. And you've seen kids' development be killed by that happening. Like, you've seen kids that be like, damn, what happened to that kid?
Right.
And that's the sad thing about it. But will say there's also positives to this NIL and portal thing because I think a guy like Bo Nix, it did wonders for him being able to leave Auburn and go to Oregon. Right. And I
Definitely
think,
help raise his stock.
yeah, and I think also when it comes to the NIL, you're going to see more players stay in college for longer, which should help on the NFL side as far as evaluations go and as far as development goes, because these guys will be a lot further along by the time that you draft them.
I mean, but I also feel
I
like
think
it's
what
teaching
pop.
these kids
Oh,
how to like
you go ahead.
manage money too, though, because like for a long period of time, these kids didn't have no money till they got to NFL, and like now they getting the money in college. So by the time they do get to NFL, and like I mean, sign those bigger deals, like I mean, like they would have had to manage this money that they've been getting. So hopefully they just become more responsible. Hopefully, like I mean,
That
it's
that should be a part of it too. Yeah.
And I'm kind
well,
of with Pop too, like on the development situation. Like Bo Nix is like one of those guys. Like I'm not mad at you for leaving Auburn because they weren't developing you, but I'm kind of I do be kind of mad at the guys that's leaving for the bag and they not leaving to go get better. Like or I'm leaving to go play for this team because they offer me a little bit more change. I think some of these kids need development, and running for the bag isn't going to get you ready for the next level, and you're going to be very upset when you get to the next level and you haven't improved from your freshman year because you ran from team to team. I think some of these guys got to commit. It got to be some changes to the portal and the NIL, man, because you can't just have like I don't even know how to explain it because it's hard to explain, but you can't just have like, oh, you know what? I don't like that such and such is paying this, and then the tampering, all of that plays all a part, like in the development. Like the tampering gotta be handled in a proper manner because now you just gonna have schools that's like, oh, I got a bigger bag than you. I'm gonna call old boy in the middle of your season. I'm gonna offer him a couple more dollars than you got. I'm gonna take him away. He not really focused on developing. Now he like, oh, I got a $5 million deal to go to Miami, and I'm playing for Oklahoma State. The Oklahoma State ain't got enough money to compete, so I'm gonna go down here and get the bag. I'm not really worried about getting better.
You know what the problem with that though is, Smitty? Like when you look at the kid, some of them, yes, they're gonna go get more money in some of these programs, but it's also sometimes a better situation for the kids. Like
No,
the top
I
programs,
understand
they
that. I just said
usually
that with the Bo
do.
Nix though. Like I'm not mad at Bo Nix going to a better situation because Auburn wasn't doing nothing but throwing him down the drain. They weren't
Like
developing him. They didn't make him better. He looked like a totally different quarterback going from Oregon to Auburn. I mean Auburn
yeah,
to Oregon.
like I'm thinking of certain players in the past. I mean, the Giants. We just signed a player that was ruled ineligible at South Carolina, and because he was ruled ineligible, he was technically a free agent, but nobody knew he was a free agent, so he went a year without really playing football whatsoever. And you've seen cases of like the NCAA in the past; they've been able to kind of screw some of these kids over as far as giving them eligibility or not giving them eligibility. But the NCAA right now can't get involved because the NCAA got sued by Tennessee and another school. I'm forgetting who the other school is at the
Was it
moment.
was it North Carolina?
Uh, Maybe I don't think so, but it could be. I have to look at it again.
So what
But
they sued him for?
when they sued them because the NCAA they were trying to get involved and poke their nose around in Tennessee's business because Tennessee paid Nico about 8 mil to come to Tennessee. Not all at once, but he'll be making I think it's 7 or 8 mil that he'll make over 4 years if he's at Tennessee for 4 years.
It was
And
Virginia.
it was yeah, yeah. And
It,
once they heard about that, they went to sue the NCAA because they're like, well, everybody's doing this type of thing right now, and you don't really have any control right now anyway. So we're about to go in front of the judge and try to sort all of this out. And they ruled in favor of Tennessee and Virginia, and the NCAA at the moment has no power whatsoever. They can't enforce any rules. So the tampering and everything that's going on, they can't do anything about it.
But
But
aren't they trying to get away from the NCAA and being the overseer anyways?
no, not at the moment. Eventually, yes. Uh, if they go to like kind of
I
like
ain't say
the
I knew
Super
right now.
League
Yeah,
format,
trying
yeah.
to.
If they go to the Super League format eventually, then yes, we will see that happen. That they get away from the NCAA, but we still got a ways to go before that happens.
I know
But
they had some things in place where like they were trying to like move in a direction where they eventually get rid of the NCAA and all in
what
all.
the SEC and Big Ten threatened it. They threatened it. They got together and said, "Hey, if y'all don't give us what we want, we'll just leave." And that's how that like that's why I said it's not official yet with the three playoff spots guaranteed, but that's basically like what they want because they were worried about the devaluation of conference play and of the conference championship in their conferences. Because the SEC championship, the Big Ten championship, I mean all championships, but those two specifically, like those were some of the most prestigious like championships to win outside of the national championship in college. And like we discussed earlier with this new playoff format, there is no real incentive outside of a bye week to winning your conference championship.
And you're not even guaranteed the bye week, right?
If you win your conference, yes, you are guaranteed the bye week. The conference winners always get the bye week. It doesn't matter if you have three losses. If you win your conference, you get the bye. But that's only for the Power Four and the best group of five team, whoever that is. They have the guaranteed bids. Everything else is at large right now. If I understood it correctly, next year you'll have 11 guaranteed teams for the playoffs and three at large teams if they go to the 14 team system like they are trying to implement.
So that do I mean now now if you tell me that, then some of the regular season games don't even matter, bro.
That's pretty much how it is right now. But I think, like to the point Dre had brought up earlier, when you add those additional two games to the championship playoffs, uh, those regular season games are gonna matter. It's gonna put more credence on how you play throughout the year, as opposed to now. It's like, okay, I can have one loss and I can still make it in, especially if I'm in one of these Power Four schools
Yeah, if
and
I
where
make
I
the
rank.
conference championship, all I need to do is get a dub.
Hmm.
Yeah, like next year I like that system a lot more because if you let's say this year, like we talked about it earlier, but I think that there's a good possibility that teams like Alabama, Georgia, Texas, and Ole Miss, for example, all make the playoff in the SEC this year. Next year, now if you finish one or two or three in your conference, you are guaranteed that spot. But if you finish four, there's no guarantee that you're going to be a playoff team. But this year, because of the way that it's set up, like a lot of those teams don't play each other, so all of those teams could have one or two losses by the end of the season. Damn near, they could all be one to two lost teams, and then all of them are going to be in the playoffs. Because one or two losses in the SEC, especially against good teams, is valued differently than losing to some of these subpar teams.
It's gonna be interesting to see how it play out. I'm ready to see the new format. I mean, I thought it should have
Yeah,
been more teams from the jump. I think the four was kind of conservative, if you may say. I don't really think the four gave you a big opportunity to see. I think the 12 gonna give you at least an opportunity. And the 14 might be a little bit better, man. Like you said, you're gonna have the three out of conference, so you're gonna need some of those teams that make bigger wins and things of that nature to get in. Instead of like this year, bro, you can be like, all right, I'm in the top two, I'm making the conference championship. You might can take a game off, like just like you said. You ain't got to rush a player back to get a win because I'm in the conference championship. I don't really need this game.
Yeah, I mean, four. I didn't mind the four. I mean, obviously that's easy for me to say, but I didn't mind the four. I think 12 might be too many, if I'm being honest. Like, I think 6 to 8 team playoff would have been ideal just because it doesn't really take away from what college football has been this whole time. Because the beauty of college football is that it's high stakes. It's not like the NFL. The NFL, you could lose 5 games and you're still going to be in the playoffs. In college football, I mean, we saw it last year. Georgia loses 1 game and it's the SEC title game and they don't make the playoffs. Like that, that's what to me was the whole excitement of college football because you were literally on the edge of your seat anytime you had a good team on your schedule because you lose this game, it could keep you out of the playoffs.
You needed those wins. Now you don't really
Yeah,
need all of them. You need some of them, but not all of them.
exactly. And if you were to go to like 6 or 8 teams, I think that would still be true, right? Because even if you say, okay, well, 2 teams from the SEC are going to make it, the two that made the title game, it's been like that for the most part throughout the whole playoff era. Most of the time, it was because another team didn't do their job, though. It wasn't just because they said, oh, well, we're going to put 2 SEC teams in. No, teams that were supposed to win lost. And once they lost, you put the SEC team in that didn't win the conference. But I don't know. We'll see the 12 team and the 14 team. I think we're gonna have some good games. We're also gonna have some terrible games, just because of how it's set up with the automatic bids and you not necessarily playing a team that's on your level. Like if you're the 5 seed, you're playing the G5 school. That should be a cakewalk almost every time. And then in round 2, if you're playing the fourth ranked conference champion, that's the worst conference champion out of everybody. And they don't necessarily have to be a top 12 team either. So you might not have real competition until you get to the semifinals. Like that's the type of thing that in this format I kind of don't like, but we'll see how it goes. It's going to be fun to watch for sure. I think with a lot of realignment and stuff, which we'll get into in the next couple episodes, but I think with the realignment happening, you're going to get a lot more good games this year, like Ohio State versus an Oregon, or Alabama versus Georgia, which didn't really happen in the regular season, or you get Texas versus Georgia. Like, there's going to be really big games that should be really fun to watch this year that we didn't get in years past. So that's one thing I am excited to see.
Hey, real quick, commercial break. Thank y'all for tuning in to the check down. We got 110 people tapped in with us. If you are on the Twitter side, if you could, man, hit the stream and come over to the YouTube side. Like, comment, subscribe. You know what I'm saying? We like tapping in with the people, man. So if you got time, just tap in with us, man, and do that. It's free. Only take a few seconds. If you want to go back to Twitter because you're scrolling down your page, man, you can. But YouTube do got a nice feature where it pops up a little picture while you still can scroll your phone. You still can watch. You know what I'm saying? So just for the people out there. What's the So the schedule? So the schedule for the teams that transfer, it's on like a rotational period too, right? They're not gonna be playing the same teams every year. It's like 3 years or something like that, right?
I would have to go look at the other conferences. I know for sure in the SEC we have a 2 year schedule to start, and that's because there's a potential that the ACC doesn't exist in next 2 years, and if that happens,
I could
the
have got the
SEC is
years wrong.
probably going to take some of those teams. But yeah, now it's a 2 year schedule for the SEC. So everybody that Georgia, Alabama, or LSU plays this year, they'll play again next year, but it'll just be the opposite. So like if it's
And
a home game
that's
this
due
year,
to
it'll be a
travel
road
and
game.
things of that nature, right? They didn't want to do all the traveling and all that, right? Something
Well,
like
no, it's
that.
because they just don't know how the conference is going to be set up in 2 years.
Oh,
Like they
okay.
don't know who all is going to be in the conference. If you add more teams, then you would have to rework the schedule again. They also don't know how they're going to do it as far as like permanent opponents. I think all conferences are doing it. I know for sure the SEC is doing it though, to where you have a guaranteed set of opponents that you play every year. They're debating if it's going to be two or three. So for like Georgia, it would be Florida, Auburn, and I think South Carolina would be the third one. For Alabama, would be Tennessee, Auburn, and LSU that we play every single year. If it's at three, if they go to two, then obviously one of those games gets taken away from everybody. But that's all just dependent on how things shape up within the next 2 years. I mean, if Florida State were to join the SEC or the Big Ten, it changes the landscape of that conference that they go to. The same thing with a Miami
I
or a
think if Florida
Clemson.
State leave, it's gonna cause a domino effect. It's probably gonna be Clemson and Miami. All them boys gonna start leaving too.
Well, I think some of them have already
Yeah,
said that they were prepared to leave.
yeah. It was like about. I think I'll have to look up the schools, but I know for sure Clemson joined in with FSU um to leave the ACC. And there was a couple other schools that joined in with that. I'll have to look it up to give you the names, but yeah, there's teams that are prepared to move on if the SEC does get dissolved.
Yeah, just I mean that's the case that we have to keep watching because, like I said, that could change the whole landscape of college football again. If Florida State and Clemson win that case, that opens the floodgates,
Well,
right?
Florida
Because
State
that
kind of already in the best position to win because the evidence they need to prove of why they can leave, they got passed like a week ago. So they're gonna be able to present that in front of the court too. You know what I mean?
for
And that
sure.
was what the NCAA wanted out the most because that was like proven, you know what I'm saying, they point or whatever, from what I was reading.
Yeah, now it's gonna be interesting because I could see certain teams. I could see the SEC going after some teams. I could see the Big Ten going after, and I think the Big 12 is going to stay active too. Because the Big 12 is right now they're trying to make sure that they don't fall completely off. Like they don't want to be the next ACC.
But
They
my
don't want to
problem is
be.
why the ACC didn't try harder to get one of those big schools that was sitting out there waiting to transfer. Like
I mean, the ACC just doesn't have
And if you're a school,
the value.
yeah, like
They don't
why
have
would
the value.
yeah, like if you're a USC or Oregon or Washington, why would you go to the ACC anyway? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, they don't have the value. The reason teams are going to the Big Ten and the SEC is because look at those TV contracts.
that's what
Like they
I
those
don't know.
contracts
I'm
are
just looking at it
crazy.
from a perspective of okay, ACC, you don't have anything to negotiate with. You should be out there trying to do something.
I mean, I
But
think
you
the
also
ACC
have to
was
look at
content.
the my bad, Dre.
No,
But I
go ahead.
also think you have to look at the schools that did become available once the Pac-12 got dissolved, and is this profitable to go to the ACC for my school? And I don't think the answer is yes.
Yeah, I
But
think
the ACC didn't even really. I mean, the schools they tried to get was kind of buns. I mean, you went and got what Stanford, right?
the ACC. I don't think the ACC got. Did the ACC get Stanford?
Yeah,
Didn't Stanford come to the ACC?
yeah, they got two
I
schools out.
believe so.
I think they got Stanford. They got then they get Cal.
Yeah, but the thing is, I mean, if they reached out to US, like USC wasn't going there, Oregon wasn't going. Like, there's just not enough value for those schools to go there. There's more value for them to play in the SEC or like the Big Ten. It's just, I mean, the ACC is not
No,
just like I mean, they hate
none of the
it.
teams went to the ACC.
Yeah,
From what I'm
Nobody
looking
went.
at, nobody went to the ACC. No,
I mean,
No, they
So
mostly
Stanford and
went
Cal
to.
didn't go to the ACC.
I thought
no.
they went to the
Where
Big
they went?
Ten.
They Stanford. Where is Stanford?
I
I
thought they
thought
was
it
in the
was
ACC.
State.
I think they.
I thought Stanford, Cal, and SMU went to the ACC.
Hold on.
I could be wrong
Um,
though. I could be wrong.
nah, I might have been looking at an outdated list because it does say here that joining the pack, that joining the ACC. I was looking on ESPN. It doesn't have them listed.
Mm.
It's hard to follow some of the movement. It's so much movement going on, but with the ACC, it's just not as profitable as those other two. And the Big 12 is doing everything they can to make sure that they stay profitable. Um, right now, they're selling the naming rights to the conference, and that's going to be something like that's a big power move for the Big 12 because they'll be able to bring in more money, which in turn gives the schools more to work with, right? And it should keep those schools happy and keep them from wanting to leave the Big 12 in the way that a Texas and Oklahoma did, because Texas and Oklahoma left because it first of all, the brand, like the Big Ten and the SEC, the brands, they mean a lot when it comes to recruiting to play in those two leagues. And then second of all, it's just the money. You just make more money playing in those conferences because the TV deals are bigger. Because you have the biggest brands in football in those conferences. Right? If you think about, I mean, when you think about college football, at least when I think about college football, I'm thinking about the Alabamas, the Georgias, the Ohio States, the Michigans, the LSU's. Like those are the programs I'm thinking of that are like consistently in the spotlight. Florida State is good on and off, but I don't think they're consistent enough. Same thing with Miami. Miami has a brand, but they're not consistent. And with the SEC and the Big Ten, you have those brands that are just long-standing brands, and they're going to bring in a lot of money.
Well,
And it's also the
I
TV
think with Florida
markets.
State though, we went through Florida State, Miami. I mean, our biggest issue with consistency has probably been coaching though.
Yeah,
I
but I
mean, to
mean,
be
you
honest,
have,
like the
but
consistency in recruiting and things of that nature has been about the same. We've been
the
about in the
ACC
same
hasn't
spots
been
for
a,
recruiting.
but the ACC just hasn't also been a good conference. Like when the ACC, when is the last time the ACC was a really good conference?
Uh,
Right.
Trevor. Well,
I only
altogether,
think we was good then though. Clemson was just
all
running through it.
And
yeah,
Clemson was running through the
Clemson.
ACC.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
You got
Clemson
to say in like the
dominated for a
2000s.
good minute.
So what you got
like
to say? You
it's
gotta, like the two, like so you got to say when Miami joined the conference, like early 2000s, because they,
yeah, but
like good. And then I mean, like I think Tech had like Michael Vick then, and they were good. Like that's what I would point to, I guess.
and you can't even really use
Uh,
Miami because Miami never won the conference.
no, they
Yeah,
never won the conference ever.
yeah, but I mean, like
Yeah,
Uh,
they were good though.
I
That's
would
what
have
I'm.
to go back to like maybe like 2013. I want to say
yeah. I
like
was
the
gonna
last
say
time we was
maybe
a
the
decent conference.
2010s. That's when
Because
you
North
had a
Carolina
few more
State was good that
schools.
year in 2013. Wake Forest was pretty decent. Like we had some teams that year. Clemson was even decent. Like we had a good little run. I think 2013 was the last time you had an even amount of talent in the ACC.
But that's what I'm saying. Like it's too much. It's inconsistency in that conference, and the interest isn't really theirs. Like if you look at those other conferences, if you look at the Big Ten, for example, the Big Ten has big TV markets in that conference. I mean, they got the Michigan, they got the Ohio State, now they got the California market with the USC. Like they have big markets out there. I think in basketball, you have some big markets in the ACC, but as far as football goes, they're there, but it's just not. I don't think there's enough of those markets. Like Virginia is a big market, but Virginia teams aren't really good. So I think that probably has an impact. Um, you look at Clemson, you got Clemson, but you also got South Carolina, so they're sharing that market. You look at Florida State, Florida State is sharing that market with Miami, with Florida, with
Kind of though.
everybody has a piece of that market.
We in like North Florida. It's not really like a lot of ACC teams in our area though.
But I'm talking about when I'm talking about the market, I'm just talking about Florida
I
in
think he's
general. Like,
As
talking
the state,
about the big programs that are within your state.
not because I was just saying like the region, like like if you really look at Florida, like a lot of people would put them in like they like them being in the Panhandle, they stay in a different region than Miami, in my opinion. Like, cause Clemson and South Carolina only like what, an hour and a half, 2 hours
yeah,
away
but
from each other.
I'm just talking about as far as the state goes. Like when they're talking about the markets, they usually they're talking about the state. They're not talking about just like specific part of the state. I'm talking about how can we bring this state into the fold
Yeah, and I
as far
think
as viewership
like
goes.
y'all have at least 4 to 5 programs out in Florida that are competing within the market out
I
there.
mean, the
But
biggest program.
that's what I was saying, Pop, about Florida State a little different. Cause like if you start going like South Georgia, South Alabama, where those teams aren't committed to like Georgia or Alabama, they're Florida State fans because Florida State is only like an hour drive from them. You get what I'm saying? If that makes sense to what I'm saying, like they so close
Nah,
to the
I
other
get what you're
state.
saying.
Yeah, but if you go to the state of Alabama, most people in the state of Alabama are going to be either Alabama or Auburn fans. You go
I mean, I've been to
to
South
Georgia.
Alabama to parties, and they be Florida State out, and they be like, "Oh yeah,"
If you
because
go to
we can
Georgia,
drive. It's an hour drive.
in
Like it's
Georgia,
right
you
there.
have a lot of Alabama, Georgia, and Auburn fans. Just from my experiences, at least, like those markets. Yes, there's Florida State fans. I'm not going to say there aren't any Florida State fans, but that's also not the market that they're targeting when they're talking about the Florida market. Right? And I can make an argument within the next couple of years, the biggest team and the biggest impact on the Florida market could be UCF in the Big 12. Because UCF within the next couple of years is going to have the biggest alumni base in America. I think they have the biggest campus in America already, don't they?
I don't know.
Smitty?
I don't know if they got the
I,
biggest campus, do they?
I think they have the biggest campus. And I know that within the next couple of years, I think it's within the next 10 years, they're supposed to have the biggest alumni base in America. Like that's the type of shit that's attractive when it comes to the markets and stuff like that. I'm not saying Florida State has no market. That's not what I'm saying, but it's hard. It's hard
They third.
for Florida to be what they're the third biggest campus.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard for Florida to be just one team as far as the market goes. Everybody has
Arizona
to
State
share
and
that
Texas
market.
A&M are 1 and 2.
Okay, but everybody shares that market. Like if
Damn,
you
but
go to Louisiana,
they in a crazy little thing too, cause like they up there with like Ohio State and shit. Like,
hmm,
as far as the
if you
size.
but if you look at a team, if like a state like Louisiana, Louisiana is LSU country. Like that, the whole state is LSU. Mhm. Like
You do
that is
get your
valuable
sprinkling of the lower schools like a Tulane or a
for
Southern
sure.
or
But
Grambling, but it's predominantly
the
LSU.
majority, the
Who
majority
they
is
competing
LSU
with though? There's no another. Is there another big school in Louisiana?
No, no.
No, but that's the
Okay,
point. They control the market there,
yeah,
so that's a valuable school to have. If you go to California, I mean, California, you got a couple of teams in California, but
right.
USC and UCLA are like the two big brands in the state of California.
And I don't think Georgia competing either, right? They like they like the only big school really.
Georgia, you got Georgia Tech, but Georgia Tech isn't really competing with Georgia. It's
You don't
just
really see a lot of Georgia Tech fans in Georgia
yeah, nah, Georgia Tech has the problem
though.
of
Hey, that state red, bro. You don't see no
they
gold, bro. You don't see no bees, bro.
Georgia Tech could be a lot better if they didn't have the strict regulations as far as the grades go and stuff like that. But that's their
I forgot
biggest problem.
they do have private school requirements, don't they?
Like the grade requirements to get into to Georgia Tech are crazy, and that's why they don't have better football teams
But is it?
because they
Well,
could
no,
have better football teams.
I thought it was another school like that too. It's another school like that though, ain't it?
Yeah, there's. I mean, there's other schools like that. I would say Vanderbilt is a school like
I
that.
was finna,
Or I
that's
mean,
who it is. Vandy. They got a
you,
high GPA slash acceptance
yeah,
qualification.
you could say the same thing about a school like SMU potentially, but I think SMU is a different case because I think the people in Texas, especially the ones with money, they'll make anything possible if they really want it to be possible. They'll pay for them kids to get into their school somehow. Like football is God in Texas, so I think that's a little different.
There's a lot of states out there that ain't competing with other schools though. I mean, centerfold of the market.
For sure, but those are the most valuable schools, like the ones, and it would be valuable. Like if the SEC were to bring in a Clemson, that's valuable because you already have South Carolina. Now you completely cornered the market, right? Because you have South Carolina and Clemson. Is same shit. If somehow the SEC got all of the Florida schools, that would be valuable, right? But they have Florida, and let's say they did bring in a Florida State or a Miami, which Miami I don't think would happen because they don't have their own stadium. But if they were to bring in a school like that, that helps with the Florida market because you're getting another piece of it.
That's an SEC requirement for real. Your own stadium.
They don't really rock with schools that don't have their own stadium.
Why don't I mean why didn't they? I never understood why they didn't build a stadium when they closed down the Orange Bowl.
I think I heard from some Miami people that they just didn't have the space to build it or something like that. I don't know, but I mean, if
And
you
then
look at
they
some of
didn't
those
they pass something
stadiums,
where they can't tear down the Orange Bowl too or something like that.
I think so. But if you look at some of those stadiums in the SEC specifically, like those stadiums are bigger than NFL stadiums. Like Brian Denny holds 100,000. Uh, the DK Royal holds 100,000. I think Georgia they're expanding theirs to be able to hold 100,000, and they're packed.
Yeah, I think right now they're at like I think they're at 80,000 right now.
Yeah, but y'all are doing like y'all are doing some work on that stadium to bring more
Yeah,
seating in.
yeah, we are.
Um,
And I expect once the work's all done, like it's going to be another one of those SEC stadiums that could hold
I think
100K.
I think FSU renovating theirs too.
like Tennessee is another one. Neyland, I think they can hold somewhere close to that. I don't know if they're at 100, but they're close.
I think we
Like
trying to get to
those
100
stadiums
too,
are
Dre.
huge.
Because we had like, if I'm not mistaken, we somewhere like close to 80,000, and we've been we trying to start our renovations here in the uh next year. I think.
Yeah, those stadiums, like the college stadiums, is crazy. Yeah, y'all are right under 80,000. Y'all at 79 and a half.
Yeah, I know we starting renovations too. We've been
Yeah, but
doing some
y'all are
things to try to get it
downsizing.
up.
Y'all are
Huh?
downsizing. Y'all not upsizing. Y'all are downsizing. Y'all are going down to about 70,000
Oh,
from what
I
I'm
read.
reading right here.
I mean, but they're probably trying to put like sweet boxes so they can make more revenue. Though. That's probably what they're doing.
They're trying to put more premium seating in, but
Yeah,
it'll be less seating than it was before.
it'll be less seating, but it'll be more money though. So
For sure. But I mean, as far as the game day environment goes, it doesn't really help to have less people in your stadium.
yeah, I don't think they're so worried about that, but they're just so. I think they're probably more worried about making more money, more revenue.
But that was one of the reasons why Florida State wants to leave because Florida State feels like they should be making more money, and the ACC isn't giving them what they want, and they want to go to a conference where they can make more money.
True, true.
I mean, I don't know. I'm reading right here that it's a trend in college football downsizing, but I'm trying to think of some stadiums that are downsized. I can't think of many or any really off the top of my head right now, but
I mean, the problem with that is you already got a bunch of stadiums and a bunch of conferences that already have over 100K. So it's like, you know,
yeah.
I mean, it is what it is at this point for those schools.
I mean, there's way to add premium seating without having to do that. Well, I don't. I would have to go look at Northwestern. I don't know if Northwestern is is trying to make their stadium bigger and or raise the capacity, or if they're just renovating. Because the interesting thing about Northwestern is trying to play their games and next to that. What is it? It's like damn near on a beach is where they're going to play their games this year, and it's going to be a small stadium. But well, I don't know if it's this year or in the coming years, but because they want to renovate the stadium, they're basically going to move their games to damn near on the beach. Like you're gonna be able to see the water from the stadium. Like it's gonna be right next to you almost from some of the designs that I saw. So
Oh, okay.
that's gonna be interesting. But you have some nice stadiums, like even these smaller schools, some of them have some nice stadiums. And I think if people are gonna play the college football game and they don't just use the top programs, you'll see that. Because they're adding a lot of small details to the game to make it as realistic as possible. Like there's stadiums that have waterfalls and stuff like that, and they're making sure that stuff isn't missing in the game. So you'll be able to see a lot of that. I don't know if you guys have done, well, I know Smitty has, but I don't know about Pop and J Mick if y'all have done any research on the college football game. But if so, I would like to hear y'all's input. What you think about the game?
I mean, I haven't done in-depth research. The only thing I don't like is like in the last game, like, and did you had like the whole mode where and you could build your player from high school and like bring him into college, and they don't have that in this version of the game, which I feel is kind of bad. So
Well,
and
you still can do that with the player. You just can't. It doesn't start in high school. So there's the
yeah,
high school part. A lot of people are upset about that. That you don't start
Yeah,
in high school.
I think that's dumb.
Huh?
But you got to think about it. This is the first game they made in a decade, and it's not. It's like a new model. It's not like they're taking a template they used previously. They're literally building this game from the ground up. So, with this game, yeah, you're gonna have some things missing. I also think people should worry about bug issues and glitches and errors and stuff like that. But I'm really looking forward to the game. Like I've wanted a new NCAA game for a while, and I'm just happy that we're getting one. Um, I'm looking forward to when it drops, and I'm just ready to play it. I'm not gonna lie, I've been wanting to play a new one for a while, so I'm just happy that we're finally getting a drop instead of these rumors I've been hearing for the last 4 or 5 years. It's actually happening.
I mean, but I do also like So I've seen a couple trailers where they like I mean, like they show you like I mean, like previews of the stadiums, and I feel like they've done a good job with that though. So
Hey, breaking news, real quick too. Florida State, y'all just got a 2026 commit quarterback, top 5 quarterback in the nation, Brady Smeagol. So
I won't hold my damn breath.
congratulations.
I won't hold
Well,
my breath. Somebody
I
will pay
mean,
him
look,
next year to take him
things
away.
could change. Things could change by then, but he just
Hey,
committed to
Pop,
y'all.
it's too
Yeah,
open out here.
nah, I
Somebody
want
be like, ah, nah, we got a couple
nah,
extra dollars.
bro.
Nah,
I when I saw your face when you announced that, I was like, nah.
Hey, look,
Hey,
he chose
2026.
y'all. He chose y'all over Oregon, Ohio State, and Washington. So you still got a battle ahead, but you got him for now.
I mean, listen, maybe he stays committed to y'all,
Oh,
and he
let's
the
see.
thing that's gonna bring y'all program back to the forefront.
Dang,
Well,
so
I
you had
think the
me reading
program
on
gonna be good
this
this year.
renovation, bro. This
I'm
season
not
finna
a.
be really
Who would be
trash.
the starting quarterback for FSU this year?
DJU,
It's DJ.
Uh,
Or Ungalavale, whatever his name is.
yeah,
now I know
DJU.
he from out here. I remember when he was coming out of high school. Um,
Yeah,
I
brothers
hope
at
it works
Oregon
out
now.
for him. I hope it works out for him. But I will have to see it before my opinions about his game change.
I mean, he played decent for Oregon State last year, and I think Mike Norvell will be able to get the best out of him. So, and as far as the rest of that roster goes, like I think I saw somewhere that FSU is projected to be a top 10 team. So we'll
Yeah,
see.
no, I
I
think
mean, it's
they're a
gonna be
solid
interesting.
team. My biggest question for them is the quarterback. And like I said, if DJ balls out, I'll give him his credit.
I
But
think
right
the I think
now,
the positive for me with
yeah.
DJ is he not gonna do too much. He's not gonna put the ball in harm's way. But I think my biggest issue with him, Pop, is exactly what you say. Like, can he step up in those moments and be a difference maker? Can he do some things that I haven't seen him do at Oregon State or Clemson? Like, that's kind of why you transferred twice, because the moments the teams needed you, I mean, you kind of wasn't there. I mean, especially for Clemson, they went ahead and moved on. Like,
Yeah, but I think y'all got a good roster too. Like I'm looking at your roster right now. I
but
think
wasn't
y'all will be
Clemson a
straight.
pretty good roster that year he took over?
Yeah, but the thing about Clemson too is Clemson, their development of quarterbacks has kind of been questionable. I think people don't look at it like that because of Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence. But if you look at quarterbacks since then, it hasn't been good.
What
Even
happened to
Cade
the one
Klubnik.
cat that took over for Deshaun Watson, man?
You talking about no? You talking about the Kelly Bryant kid? But he
Kelly.
got replaced by Trevor Lawrence.
Didn't he play well that year though? That year before?
And he
He was the
played
starter for
well,
1 year.
but I had to go look. How did that go again? I know he
I'm
was the
just going with
starter,
your
and
I'm
then
going with your
Trevor
narrative.
Lawrence. Trevor
I'm going with
Lawrence,
your
but I'm talking about after since Trevor Lawrence. I don't know if it's the evaluation or what it is. They haven't really been good as far as evaluating
they only on their
or
what second
developing
quarterback now, right?
quarterbacks. Yeah,
They on
but
their
Cade
second quarterback.
Klubnik was a highly touted guy. DJU was the number one quarterback in this class, and neither of them worked out. Like at some point,
Aren't
I
they
got to
saying
start
Caleb?
looking at the staff.
Aren't they saying Caleb supposed to have a breakout season this year though?
Cade, no, it depends on who you talk to. Some people got
Yeah,
faith in Cade. I got to see it.
a couple of the podcasts I watched, they just said they think he gonna have the season he's supposed to have last year this year.
I got to see it first from Cade. But I think
He didn't play
there's.
well last year. He had a lot of bad games.
Yeah. But what are your thoughts on the college football game, Smitty? Because I know you've been doing a little research.
Um, I think it's gonna be interesting, right? Because it's not only just a game, right? But they're playing for a contract, right? They're creating a game so the NCAA can give them the same contract they have with Madden. So I think the game is gonna be well. I think it's some things you could take away from this game that's definitely gonna be uh something I'm going to evaluate, especially like with those abilities and things of that nature. Like I think they added some things to the game, but I think like the high school part was a problem for me because I guess a lot of people just gonna pick their favorite school and they're gonna start from there, or whatever. They're gonna pick stack schools or whatever. I think I liked it. I liked it is not a word. I liked the aspect of earning a scholarship or playing for. But my biggest thing on that game has always been franchise mode. So I kind of want to see how that's gonna play out. I heard that was one of their focal points this year, because in previous years they had neglected the franchise mode, especially with Matt. They definitely have.
Yeah, but
I think it's going to be very very interesting to see if they can get back into the element from before.
the interesting thing though is, and I don't think a lot of people actually know this, is a lot of the people that worked on this college football game were people that had been modding the NCAA 14
Yeah. Hmm.
over the years. And
One of the dudes I seen this podcast a couple of days ago, Dre. He was like he was really shocked because he been playing like on a mod through his computer for some years, maybe like 10 years or so. And he said ESPN hit him up, and he actually was a part of the creation of this.
yeah, they had a lot of those guys involved in it. And I mean, just from some of the videos I watched and the people that had the opportunity to play the game in advance, if they encountered any kind of problem or when the trailer dropped and there were some things that were kind of off in the trailer, they went back and fixed all of those things right away. So I do think that they're putting a lot of effort in, and just as far as
But
like even
but
the,
I just told you why, Dre. They fighting for a contract. They don't have a permanent contract. This contract
I don't,
ends in 2028.
I don't think that's the only reason. Though. I think that the people that are involved in the game, like they actually
They care
are
about the game, but they
real
also care about
fans
getting their
of
permanent
the
money. You don't
game,
want to be
and they
competing with
want.
2K every year with
I,
NCAA. You don't want to be competing with that.
Yeah, but
They
those
already
I'm
went through.
talking about the developers that have been doing this shit for free for the last 10 years.
Yeah,
Them for them it doesn't really matter because
but
if
for I'm saying
let's
EA.
say
EA brought
EA,
them in
but
to make it
yeah,
better
but
though.
I'm talking about the people that are actually making the game. I don't care about EA. I'm talking about the people that are actually making the game. They care about the game and they want
I
the
understand
game to
what you're
be a
saying, but I'm
good
saying
game.
EA hired
And
them because of their care for the game. That's the only reason they're there. If it wasn't for that, they
for
would have
sure,
brought in
but
more Madden people, and we would have got the same bullshit we've been getting for the last 10 years.
for sure, but what I'm saying, I'm just talking about specifically the people that are developing the game. I'm taking EA completely out of it. I think we're gonna get a good game because those people have a real love for the game and they're paying attention to the small details and they're open to being critiqued and finding a way to go fix it. And just like the atmospheres of the college stadiums, like there's so much detail in these games. Like if you're playing a night game at Penn State and it's a whiteout and they throw that Mobamba on and the stadium is rocking. Like I just saw it on the trailer. I felt like I was there. Just watching the trailer, I felt like I was there. Or they're gonna have the fight songs for all the different schools. Like there's so much that's implemented in this game. I just don't see how it can be a bad
But this
game. And
isn't
then like
stuff they didn't
you're
have
talking
before, though.
about not to this, not the way that they're doing it now. They're going way more in depth now. And
I mean,
just
you
like
got
even
next
as
gen now.
far
I
as
mean, obviously it's been 10 years.
and
It has to advance, right? You can't have the same game from 2014 brought out in
But I
2024.
think the
uh,
like to the point Dre made with bringing in the modders of NCAA 14 is that we're getting a game that's not like Madden. And I think that was a concern for a lot of people is that, oh, they're going to copy and paste what they did with Madden and put it on this game. And then what we're seeing and what they've released, it's not like that. And the
I
detail
understand
that
that.
they're putting in these stadiums and even in the nameplates, right? Because if you look at the first trailer, there were issues with the design of the uniforms and stuff like that. And they corrected it. And it's showing that they're actually caring about this product that they're going to give us.
But Pop, that's what
yeah,
led me
and
back to like when he said he wanted to take EA out. I'm like, you really can't because if it wasn't for the NCAA telling EA we want better product than what you're putting out with Madden, then they would just have put out another Madden. They told them like, look, we want top performance gaming and we want it to be the best product you put out. You have to go get guys like the modders because the dudes you already have in EA have proven they're not putting out better content than the modders. People are paying to change from system to PC so they can play on these modded games because it's better than the game you putting out every year. So that's why I kind of was like, EA kind of had to make a effort to get guys that are willing to make effort because if it wasn't, then they would be competing with 2K or any other gaming company that think they can make a college game better than EA. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no,
and
I agree with what you're saying.
you brought up the abilities that they're gonna have in the game, and one thing that I've seen from a lot of different people is that the abilities aren't overpowered the way they are in Madden to an extent. Like in Madden, those abilities, some of them are just crazy. But in college, it's from what I've heard from people, it basically just makes the players play how they're supposed to play. Like those stars in college football, you're gonna notice a difference between them and let's say a 3-star running back. If you're talking about Ali Gordon and 3-star running back, you'll notice a difference, but it's not
You can have more
overpowered to where you're just
badges.
going to be able to spam it
You gonna have more
the
badges
whole
too, though.
game
If you a 3-star to a 5-star, I'm assuming you're gonna have
for sure.
more
But I'm
badges
just
and maybe a
the
better
abilities.
badges.
Yeah, but the abilities. I'm just talking about they're not overpowered like they are in Madden, and that was one thing that I thought was dope. And then as far as like the 3-star and 5-star thing goes, when you're playing a dynasty, the dope thing about that is too, like when you're recruiting or even when you're playing a regular game, if I were to go pick James Madison and you were to pick Florida State, I'm gonna be able to notice that on the field. Like you can't just go get any random team and take them up against a really good team and expect to have a lot of success. Like
So
in
you think
Madden,
it's
you
gonna
can do
be
that.
so you think it's gonna be more emphasized than it was back when we were playing before? Because I remember trying to play like I remember starting my franchise with Grambling State and then thinking I could play a regular game against one of my cousins and he had like Florida. He smacked me. He smashed me. I was slow. I was nasty. So you think they're gonna emphasize it though? You're gonna notice
Yes,
it way more.
that is one of the things that they're emphasizing a lot is that you can tell the difference between these 2 star, 1 star, 3 stars, or even just upperclassmen. If you have a freshman, even if he's a 5 star, let's say I have
Yeah,
a
I
four
seen that
star.
one. Yeah, I did
Yeah, I
see
have
that.
the 4 star, and he's playing. Well, he's been in college for 3 years now. I still might have a slight advantage just because he's the more experienced player, and he's more comfortable on the field. He doesn't have to actually learn how to play at the college level.
That's something
Like
they
I
kind of
like
taken from
those
Madden though too.
details.
You ever notice like if you draft a rookie, he have those like dumb mistakes as a rookie that he don't have later on when you play in your franchise mode, Dre. If you play Madden franchise, you ever notice that you like draft a dude, he kind of like you you kind of like see him like drop an easy pass or he make a blunder on a jump pass or something like that. He not fully developed, and then year
Yeah,
3 you throw him the same pass and he catch it and house it. I think it's gonna be kind of like that, but
yeah,
more
but
apparent. Like you're gonna be able to know like, oh, I drafted him 4 years ago. He executes everything, but the freshman is a little bit slower. His 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 reaction time is down. His recognition of plays and things of that nature might be a little off, right?
yeah, like you could have a guy that has basically almost the same overall. Let's say one of them's 85, one of them's 84, but the 84 is an upperclassman. He probably is going to perform better on the football field than the 85 freshman.
I'm
And I
ready to
also
see it
like
though.
I,
I want to see how they develop.
the last thing I'll say too is I like the fact that they are taking into account that in college you do see a lot of substitutions, and they're taking that into account with how the game is going to play. Like as far as the running back position, you see a lot more teams doing running back by committee. You do have teams like Oklahoma State who's going to run Ollie Gordon probably into the ground, or last year Ole Miss who kind of ran Judkins in the ground. But you do see a lot more teams who are doing the running back by committee thing, and that's going to be noticeable in the game because a guy will get fatigued and they're just automatically going to sub your next guy in, which means depth is going to matter when you're doing like the dynasty mode and stuff like that. So I like the attention to detail, and I'm excited to see it, man. We got about what 3 more weeks left, something like that, till the game comes out. I'm excited.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
it's what,
not long left.
June 16th, I believe. I
Yeah,
mean, not
pre-order
July
June,
16th, yeah.
July,
July 16th if you
July
pre-order,
16th.
July 19th if you buying the live copy.
Hmm.
I pre-ordered it. I need that. I need them extra 3 days. I need that. I need that. Need that. So when people buy it and they come on the 19th, I'm be like, yeah, man, I'm 3 days up. Let me put you on real quick.
Yeah, I'm excited to see
Sis,
it for sure.
when you get in the system, sis, when you get in the system now, you know what I'm saying?
Listen, I ain't no
We
rush to
get,
get it.
I
Probably
know. So we can
like
start this check down with this check down dynasty, man. We can start this check down dynasty
probably
season.
around August, September. Cause like me, I weigh my options. I like to look at products. I like to do a lot of research because I don't want to purchase something and then when I buy it, I'm not gonna like it.
Yeah.
So I'm taking my time and figuring out what system I'm gonna get right now.
It is a some people like that don't really game a lot anymore. They definitely it is good to do your research. Definitely
Yeah,
do
I'm
your research.
mostly PC game, and so but
Totally different world. Totally different world.
exactly.
Totally different
So
world. I thought
now
about
I'm
going
jumping back
PC,
into like
but
console.
I
But
know a lot of
yeah.
the newer games trying to take PC out because PC mod and then changing things up.
Exactly, and that's why I was hoping when it dropped, it would be like PC
No, they don't
friendly,
want
and
y'all
then
mind. Y'all been they've been
yeah,
embarrassing them for
this is
10 years.
yeah, it is not. So I'm like, damn, they forcing me to have to get a system to play this game, bro.
Yeah, man. It's interesting though. This is gonna be an interesting college and NFL season. I'm ready to watch both. I'm ready to watch both.
For
While I'm
sure,
playing,
especially with the realignment that's happening. Yeah, it's gonna be real
Yeah.
hey, do y'all
interesting.
think we'll get an expansion team in the NFL anytime soon?
Yes, I think within the
Yeah,
next 10 to 15 years, you're gonna see a
That's
European division.
understandable.
I
yeah. I was
mean,
gonna say it's gonna be. I think it's a European team because they're really trying to establish that market.
not just one; it'll be four. They're gonna do a whole division. From
Hmm.
everything I've read, when they do it, it'll be a whole division. I think there's a potential to have two teams in
Oh, I
Germany,
didn't know
for
this.
sure. One, you'll have one in
Uh,
London, obviously, and then they'll probably explore some other
well,
options.
London didn't
But
give
you
up.
have to have a
London didn't give
division.
their rights yet, but it is some places that granted teams rights.
Yeah,
Germany gave the Giants,
Germany
uh,
has the Giants, the
and the Colts
Chiefs. There's a
and the
there's
Lions.
a couple different ones. Yeah,
Colts, Lions, Chiefs, Giants all have rights in Germany. The Colts
that
also
started
have.
last year.
Yep, yep. March last year. Detroit has Canada, Austria, and Switzerland. Like so, they got some places that's trying to open up their markets for teams
Yeah.
to come.
Well, that's why you're getting all these European games now. Like last year, they played two in Germany. They sold out within like 15 minutes of the tickets going on sale, both games. The London games, they sell out every year. Uh, I'm pretty sure as soon as these Giants Panthers tickets drop, and it's not even like good games, it's just any game. But like when the Panthers Giants tickets drop, they're going to sell out. Last year, the Colts versus the Patriots sold out, and
Hey, what's
nobody
funny,
had like
Dre?
huge
You you
expectations for that.
you said those two teams, and I clicked this article for Bleacher Report, and it's talking about NFL expansion team. First team they talk about is London, Germany, and Toronto.
Yeah, but I think, see, I don't know how that would work though, because Canada, like, I don't think you can have a Canadian team in the division with a German team and a team in England. It just doesn't, from the
No, no, no,
distance,
no,
it
no,
just
no, no, no.
doesn't
They
make any
saying like
sense.
in order those they believe those are the top three teams that have an opportunity to become an expansion area.
For sure, but you would have to add four teams because you have to have a division. Like, you would have to have a European division basically, because that means half of your games
Would be over there.
you would be over here, so you don't have to travel as much. Now the other half of your games you're gonna have to travel, and you probably end up staying over there for an extended period of time. But
Okay, with you saying that,
they
right?
would
Do
have
you
to figure
think
that
do
out.
you think it's possible a team would decide to move?
If there's any team that moves to a European country, it would be
Jags.
the Jaguars moving to London. That's the only one I can
Yeah, but
see.
that's
I
not
can't see any other franchise moving.
that's not going to happen because they're building a new stadium right now.
Mhm.
Yeah, they building a stadium.
So then none of them are moving because that would be
That's just a
the
question. That's just a
only one
question.
I could think of.
Because I'm thinking of like teams that possibly want to upgrade a stadium or things of that nature, and their place of business right now isn't permitting them. But a team, let's say, for instance, like a London, we're gonna give you a top of the line, $1.7 billion stadium or whatever. You know what I mean?
I'm not so sure the German team would have their own stadium. If they play in Munich, they won't have their own stadium. They'll be playing
They'll
in a
share with
soccer
the soccer
stadium.
team, right?
They will. I I think it would be in the Alliance Arena. That's what I would
I
assume. I
wonder
mean,
if
that's
that's.
where
I
they
wonder if the.
played.
I wonder if the NFL will have some type of stipulation or whatever.
I don't
They're
know,
gonna have
but
some
that I
type of.
mean that's where they played. Well, not last year, but yeah, last year there were two games. So one of the games was there, and then this year they have the one game that's over here in that arena too. And I mean, you got grass field. Players always want to play on grass, and that is probably the nicest stadium in Germany. I mean, Bayern has a lot of money, and they like to spend that money. So that stadium is nice. Like I haven't been in the stadium, but I've seen the stadium a couple times. It's a nice stadium, and it's a dome
Mm, they're like that for sure.
for sure. So I think we will get we're gonna get some more teams though,
Jigga,
especially
you're
with the
not
way
gonna
it's
ever
going.
see that, Jigga. You're not ever gonna see all these stadiums with grass ever again, bro.
Well, the Giants might be
It's gonna
switching to
happen.
grass soon. I I think that's a big possibility just because with the World Cup and everything happening over there, you're gonna have to install
So
grass because a
you
lot of
think
the
after
soccer
this,
players
because then y'all just change it, right?
we changed it to a different turf, but I mean the soccer players aren't going to play on turf. A lot of the soccer players are notorious for refusing to play on turf, so you have to have real grass. And I just don't see why you would take the real grass out after you've already put it
Because that's what they asking y'all to do, right? They asking y'all to put in real grass for the World Cup.
in. I mean, you have to if you're going to host the game. You have to.
They're hosting the championship too at that, right?
I think so.
Oh, you definitely gotta have grass. They not
Yeah.
taking no bullshit. Oh man, I'm ready to see it though. I'm ready to see it.
And starting next week, we're gonna start kind of giving y'all a preview of the different conferences. I don't think we decided what conference we're gonna start with yet, but just tune in. We're gonna be talking about the four power conferences. Yeah, we'll give y'all some more information about the movement and how we see things shaking up and just different things like that. So just stay tuned in, man.
Yeah, man. So we at the hour 52 minute mark, man. We gave y'all a preview of the college football, man. You know, we're gonna take the next few weeks to give you a good detailed outline of what's going on, and you know, try to get us to this season, man, so we can understand. You know, everybody can understand the same. I know it's new college fans out there that want to see what's going on, so we ready. Anything for the people before we get out of here, y'all?
Nah, man, just I appreciate y'all for tuning in, and I hope y'all enjoyed the show and y'all continue to tune in.
Yeah, just thank y'all for keep supporting us, and good to be with y'all. Chop it up with the guys, and talk to y'all next week.
Well, all right, man. It's another successful week, man. We appreciate all y'all, man, for coming out, tapping it in with us. From all of us to all of you, man. One love. We out.